We've talked about dating and how important it is and some different things related to dating. So I'm anxious to hear how these.
Yeah. So 5 big tips for date nights. And I think we do most of them well. We did a show on how we believe it's important to schedule date nights when you're married.
So now we're going to find out how to make them good.
Right.
Now we're going to make sure they don't suck.
So we do a great job of scheduling date nights every week. So now we're going to talk about this to try to figure out how to make those date nights decent.
Right.
So the first tip is plan with thoughtfulness.
Now, I've given you kudos about this before on our shows. You do a pretty good job of planning things. So
the root of what they're getting at with the idea of planning with thoughtfulness is to take your partner's likes into consideration. I mean, because we do date nights every week, it gets kind of tough sometimes because Tuesday will sneak up on me and maybe I had a rough day at work and I come home and it's like, man, I really haven't put an ounce of thought into what we're doing tonight. But usually I'll put a little thought into it, even if it's not until a brief time before we go out. I'll come up with an idea that, hey, I know she likes this or I know she likes that, and then I'll plan to do that.
Yeah. You're really good too about listening to things I say just in general and then, surprising me with them later. If I say like, oh, I've been wanting to do this or I was thinking we haven't done this in a while or, it would be fun to go to a country bar, just something goofy that I might bring up. You'll remember it. Yeah, like it's almost like I think you make notes.
Oh yeah, I have a piss poor memory, so I take notes sometimes.
And I think
I've got that like notes on my iPhone. It's just an app that comes with the phone, and I'll open it up and try to make notes. Like I've done a list before of restaurants I'd like to try. And then when we hear of something, I'll type it in there.
I know you do that because if I see something on my indie food group or something, I'll tell you to put it on our list.
Yeah.
So we don't forget, because I'll forget too. Another thing that you do is you try to make sure that we change it up. Like we might do music that one time, we might do a fancy restaurant another time, we might go outside another time. You try to kind of think about what we've done lately and what we need to do. So I do appreciate it when you make a plan and I don't have to worry about it. But I also do laugh because remember just the other day I told you, Jason always tells me that he always won't tell me where we're going when we get in the car.
Yeah.
And I used to think it was just because he always says it would ruin the anticipation.
You're going to spoil one of the next tips.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But tip number 2 is disconnect from distraction. And we do so with that. This is about not talking to other people and chatting and making phone calls and things while you're on a date with your spouse. You need to focus on each other.
I agree with that 100%. And we are only so at it. We're pretty good. But it's so easy if you're just talking and you can't think of something, or you're like, oh, I wanted to show you this, and then you look it up on your phone and you're talking. Yeah, you're kind of.
And I think if we're doing that together, it's okay. If we're looking up something and talking about it together, that's okay. But I think the main focus there is to focus on each other. iPhones are a blessing and a curse, right?
Absolutely.
The smartphones have given us so much power, so much connectivity. That's fantastic. But the curse is the distraction. It gets between people. And you can see couples all the time when we're out. You look over at their table, you got 2 people, and they're both their faces are plowed into their iPhones. I mean, that's not romantic.
Not at all. No, it's not romantic. Don't do that.
So that was tip number 2, was a disconnect from distraction.
Okay. Well, how did I ruin that?
When did you ruin it?
Well, I was going to say that thing about, anyway, you said I ruined one of the tips. Is there another one that I was going to ruin?
Yeah, that's coming up.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to be clear. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What's tip number 3, honey?
That's funny shit. Tip number 3 is a surprise element.
Yeah. I think there's 2 things to that. And I was going to make a joke about what I said to you, but honestly, both of these things are true. If someone goes to the trouble of planning a nice night out for you, and then they tell you where you're going to go, you just need to be freaking happy about it. You need to say, oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. You don't need to say like, oh, I didn't really want to do that. That sucks.
Yeah.
And it's easy to do that when you're married. Like it's like easy to kind of feel like that's okay. And it's like not okay. It's not okay.
But, that's also why I think there's power. With what I do, we're going out. You'll say, where are we going? And what will I say?
I can't tell you that. It'll ruin the anticipation.
Yeah, right. Part of that is to avoid that, right? Let's just get you guessing and wondering where we're going and not being quite for sure. And sometimes you figure it out on the way, based on where I'm driving.
Yeah, for sure.
The main thing I like to try to do is avoid that whole annoying thing where, what do you want to do? Oh, I don't know. What do you want to do? Oh, well, no, I really don't care, man. It's up to you, whatever you would like. Well, that drives me nuts.
It's easy for that to happen a little bit on Tuesday nights because we go out to eat we have our date night every Tuesday, and we go out to eat. And like Jason said, we pretty much gone to all the places around here multiple times. That's always like, where are we going to go tonight? And that's made Tuesdays not there. That's a different kind of date night. That's just our time to connect during the week. When we have a whole, like, we're going out for the evening, we're going to dress nice, we're going to go out. That's when it's kind of nice for it to be a surprise. And I never fuss about that.
Probably especially when I tell you I can't tell you, and then you'll say, well, I need to know how to dress, and I'll tell you how to dress, and then that'll get you wondering.
Yeah, that is fun.
But I think that's an element of surprise, right? And that's part of this tip. Now, the article had I think it's a good suggestion, but we don't do it, and that is occasionally a small gift or something.
Oh, no, we don't do that.
No, we don't do that, but I think that's a good idea.
Oh, it's really sweet, yeah. Or anything. That's really sweet. There's all kinds of little surprisey things you could do when I think about it, like have a cocktail ready when your spouse comes downstairs when they're dressed up, ready to sit and, get the night started. Or there's just all kinds of little things you could do to make it seem extra special, I think. You don't have to give a big gift. Yeah. We're not big gift givers for no reason, which is fine. We're not. That's not our thing. We'd much rather, I'd much rather we spent time together than worry about gift. But that's a nice one. That would be a big surprise. So that's number 4. Give a small gift.
No. That was part of the surprise element. That's tip number 3.
Well, but didn't you like my thing about having the cocktail ready when you come downstairs?
I did, and I'm wondering why that never happens.
Oh, well, I'm always the last one ready, so that's why it doesn't happen on my end. I'm usually pissed off because I've tried on 5 outfits by then and don't really like any of them, and so it might help put me in a better. I'm not always, but sometimes I'm pissed off because I can't find the right outfit to wear. Right,
right. Yeah, you're usually grumpy when you're getting ready,
which is not a good way to start date night, ladies. You should. Maybe you should have an outfit ready for surprise date nights. I don't know.
Tip number 4. Focus on quality conversation.
I agree with that. I say that all the time. Even when we're in the car, I always say, what do you want to talk about?
You do. And I'm always blindsided and thinking, gee, I don't know. Well, you like to ask me about my day, right?
Yeah, that's on Tuesday.
I think that works out a lot better if I ask you about your day.
Well, it's because I talk too much, yeah. Yeah, I can fill a conversation. If someone asks me a question, I can fill space. In fact, I don't like for there to be empty space. At my office, they laugh because it's quiet. Everyone's working, but when I'm there, it's less quiet, because I'm like, hey, what's going on, everybody? Let's
Right, but I think the bottom line on this one, though, on quality conversation is when you're a couple, you should focus on each other a bit and try to make a connection while you're dating.
I think that takes some work. You'd have to have kind of in your mind things that would be interesting to talk about. And you don't really do that. You don't make a list of that. But
my mind's pretty much blank.
Your mind's not that blank, honey. But
when you're like me and you have an IQ of 4.5, I don't have to worry too much about all the thoughts in my head.
So there's a few things you could do. I mean, we've done this many times. It only works for so long, but there's those apps about questions for couples and things like that.
Yeah, and we've tinkered with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do stuff like that. And you can also think about just things that you want to talk about, not problems though, not you've really been pissing me off lately. That puts a damper on date night.
Yeah, and I think date night's not a good time to talk about financial issues.
Oh, for sure not.
And things like that. Try to keep the subject light. I think you hit a good one there, on the internet. If you just Google questions to ask on date night or anything like that, it'll come up with just hit after hit of 50 questions, 70 questions, all these things just to get couples talking with each other. 3/4 of it might be crap and might not work for you, but you're going to get some ideas.
Yeah, I think there's things to do. Especially if you know ahead of time that you're going to be going out during the weekend, you could each kind of be responsible for a couple of things that you want to talk about. I personally like to talk about like what's going on in the world and political issues and things like that. Some people don't find that romantic at all. I think it's kind of stimulating and fun, even if we don't agree.
Stimulating, huh?
Yeah, I do. I find it stimulating. And politics is one of my things. You know, what's going on in the world, articles that we've read. We do that. Now we do that. You listen to podcasts and things, and we remember things that are interesting and bring them up. But I think it's really easy, especially young couples with kids, to just talk about their kids and stuff when they go out.
Yeah, and I think that's a mistake. Date night is a time for each other. You know, that's the one time when you should kind of put the kids to the side.
I think an easy thing, you know, this just came to me, and we have done this before, especially when we were newly married, but just kind of thinking about like talking about, you know, like what's going really well in our relationship. What are some things we want to work on? You know, it could be totally a happy thing, not like and that's like a real thought provoking thing. And we still do that. It made me think when you talked about like focus, we often try to get away or spend time just the two of us after Christmas because we've been so focused on our kids for a few days, and we don't always do that, but we're like, it's hard, it's stressful, and it's hard.
Well, it's a heavy family time, right?
Right, heavy family time.
And we entertain.
And we love it, but it's stressful and hard, and we've been a little stressed. We've had to clean and wrap and cook, and so we have to kind of come back together and be happy, you know, just have the two of us to remember like peaceful, good parts of, you know, just being a couple. But quality conversation. I agree that that's important.
Tip number 5 is end on a high note. Yeah, and what the article is saying about that is, you know, like a dating couple, maybe ending with a goodnight kiss, or you know, for a married couple like us, maybe ending with a note of gratitude on, oh, I had such a good time tonight, didn't you? That type of thing, or some ending of the night to make on a high note. The reason I think we don't really do that well with that, especially like on our scheduled Tuesday night date nights, is because at the end of the night we come back home,
right?
And typically we're walking into, you know,
Alec and
dogs and kids and you know, babysitter and all these things, and you know, the date night's basically over. We got commotion in the house, and it's not unusual that it's time for me to start getting ready for bed because I got to work in the morning, and you know, so we could probably benefit from putting a little more thought into that one.
And I just want to again say to you, like, I think Tuesday's a little different. Our Tuesday night date nights to me are a little different than what I think the typical couple would call a date night. I think our Tuesdays are like, we're going to do this every week. We're going to set aside time to just, you know, get away, check in with each other, and have something to look forward to. It's not the same as when we have a date night, like a Friday or Saturday date night. But what I want to say that I think couples are really bad at, including us, is date night shouldn't end when you get home. Sometimes you can't help it because you have little kids to come home to, and you have to drive the babysitter home or whatever. But I think it's really easy to come home, and then you go off and do your thing, and I go off and do my thing, and it's kind of a downer compared to how great the night's been. You know what I mean? I think like the date night, even when you're married and live together, it should kind of continue on. You know, you should come home and make a glass of wine and sit on the couch together and go to bed together, and it should kind of be a whole evening kind of thing.
Yeah, especially that go to bed together thing.
Well, that's important every night, but but I think that's important every night. We've covered that in a previous episode. You guys might want to go back. Sleep together and sleep naked. It's my number one marriage tip. Sleep together every night, go to bed at the same time, sleep naked. It will solve a multitude of problems in your marriage, promise you. But I do think that it's really easy. Now, like I said, sometimes you can't help it, but even if you do have to drive the babysitter home or put the kids to bed, I think it's like, okay, let's do this, and then we're going to come back together and finish our night. I do think it's important that it's a whole kind of romantic night.
It's a good point.
Thanks. We do need to do better on that, especially you. Well, those were good tips, honey.
Oh, thank you.
I think those are good tips. I think we do most of them pretty well, but I think those are things for people to think about, especially you men out there and plan your damn date nights.